Grand Rising. Grand Rising. Hope everyone's doing well this rising. What's going on, Bones? How you doing, bro?
Grand Rising, everyone. Glad you made it. Caught that cab in the rising.
Grand Rising Original Tiller. Grand Rising Pamela Hall. Grand Rising Copper Color Queen. Make sure I haven't missed anybody so far. Grand Rising Big Hawk. Anybody else we may have missed? It's Tuesday, June the 4th, 2019.
Already?
Already, bro. We are approaching halfway point of this what you call it, the Gregorian calendar? Is that what this is?
Yep, 2020 round the corner.
Yeah.
No, right about now it's down the street, yeah.
So if y'all can hear us pretty good,
Where them ones at?
throw the ones up, please, so we can adjust our audio so that we can be heard and we can get going with move this information. We are still going to be speaking on 501c entities and how we can use the system that our ancestors created as a mechanism, not the mechanism, but a mechanism to start helping our communities and our tribes. But before we go into that, let's have let's talk about some of the things that's going on in our communities.
I had to cross over, get away from the noise real quick.
All right.
No, I'm at school at the moment. But no, basically, yesterday we had the little meeting in Tifton on standing up for the garbage dump and stuff that people wanted to put in the city. All that's going good moving forward. A lot of people came out, signed up to start doing work and helping each other in the community. Also, been made aware of some more mechanisms that been given to A2 that can be used to help people become self-sufficient. So we will be packaging that stuff up. Well, packaging probably too strong of a word. Well, we will be putting that information together and sending it out like how we do everything else, trying to help everybody the best way we can.
And these are mechanisms that can be used in all communities, not just either where you live or where I live, correct?
Correct, yeah. You know, I just do what we tell people to do all the time. Best way to do it is start where you at. Start where you at. Start in your own neighborhood. Start in your community. Then once you learn how to do it, you can start spreading it. Basically what we're doing here, spreading it to all the other communities.
Yeah, that's the same thing we're doing over here in the Northern Virginia area. And hopefully people in the chat or, people period are helping and spreading this information about the 501Cs, the HUD Section 3s, and other opportunities that they've come across. Because again, we are not the answer. We don't have all the answers, and we're not claiming that our answer is the best answer. But what we do know, and what has been proven, is that these mechanisms do work, and they not only work for Europeans, but they work for all people, whether you're American Indian, Native American, autochthonous, ebony, mahogany, brown, classify as black, African American, white, or what have you. These mechanisms
Has nothing.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just about to add on what you said. It has nothing to do with the application of these mechanisms.
So, again, at the end of the day, we're not talking about a system that we are working on that may work, that could possibly work, or if you tilt your head to the side, it's in the works. We're talking about things that are already currently working. So, you know, that's that's what we're doing here. Because at the end of the day, we want to make sure people tie themselves not only to their ancestors by doing their genealogy, minus of course the DNA testing, and if you want to tie into your tribe, tie into your tribe. That does not mean you have to move where your tribe is located. You can still be registered with your tribe and get the benefits, at least federal at that rate, if they are federally recognized. State benefits if they're state recognized, local benefits if they're locally recognized.
And
And
I'm
if
glad
you
you mentioned that.
go ahead,
Because no, it just a question I just always wanted to know, even from earlier this rising. What makes it wrong to show individuals and talk to individuals about tying back into their tribes and being part of their tribes? I don't understand what's wrong or what's bad with that, especially if you're doing genealogy and you have the paperwork showing that you come from these tribes.
well, I think one of the issues is, and from what I've heard from just talking to people, is that a lot of these tribes, like we mentioned yesterday, a lot of these tribes that are American Indian who do not look like us, they don't want us, um, nor our descendants or ancestors, to be a part of who they are. So they are basically discriminating and being bigoted. But that's not all tribes that are like that. Because at the end of the day, if you have European in your family and they come to the family reunion, are you going to stop going? Are you going to stop participating? No. But if you were the one to set up the family reunion, you're going to make sure everything is right. And you're going to make sure everything is fair. And like we said, if that tribe turns out to be a racist and bigoted tribe and they don't want melanated people in their tribe, then we don't want to be bothered with them, and they're not going to receive our help, and we're not going to make them do something they don't want to do. But they will be placed on notice, and
That's
there
what
is
you,
a mechanism to deal with them.
yes, there are mechanisms in place. You better ask the Cherokee, the Creek.
And that's if you want to tie into your tribe. No one's saying that you have to tie into your tribe. No one's saying that you have to be recognized as American Indian. I mean, that's a choice. I mean, it's called self-determination for a reason, and it's based off of the census and resources. That's what this is for. This is all what this is for. Is being able to access resources.
And I'm glad you said that too, because people talking about the census but don't understand what the census was designed for. The census was designed for land allotments to find out who here, how much resources and land particular people or groups need. Don't have to take our word for it, but if you look at this year's census, people back away from it. There's a whole lot of land tied up in trust for the American Indians. What do you think happens to that when the majority of us don't claim American Indian?
That land will be sold. That's what's going to happen. And it's going to be sold to people that's going to purchase it. That once it's purchased, you're not going to be able to give it back, no matter what you declare, no matter what you claim, no matter who you put on notice, or no matter how you provide information that you are indigenous or aboriginal. And that's no knock on any individual. That's what I've seen and what I've witnessed dealing with um, how land is, I guess for lack of a better term, leased out or deeded. There are plenty of court cases that talks about the land and how it was taken and how it was stolen and how it's been deeded out, and there's a process to it. There is no magic formula that's by stating something and stating law that you want to get it back. There's a process, there's a mechanism. So at the end of the day, the more land that comes out of that trust, the less likely we are to get it back. So the census self-determination is based is for the specific purposes of resources and being able to access those resources. Because, case in point, once a university or national park sits on that land, it's going to be very difficult to get it back. And if you can show a case where someone has taken back a national park or land from a university, I mean, I would like to see it. And I'm not saying that it doesn't exist. I'm just saying I haven't seen it. We don't do hooky spooky or made up stuff over here. We deal with real facts. Like show and prove. Bro.
Yep.
That's my perspective.
Shit, like you said, using mechanisms that we're not experimenting with, we're not guessing, that the majority of us been watching these mechanisms work out our whole entire lives so far, from the NFL to the National Guard to the Coast Guard, insurance companies. I mean, so we know it works. We just applying it to our needs now.
Grand Rise and LJ Free, and Pamela says, she's talking about the problem as far as associating or tying into a tribe. She says she's running into the problem now and have proof that she's connected to the Powhatan Indians. So Pamela Hall, we will definitely get with you, and I'll let you see what your options are in reference to that, so we can get it on record that they're actually being a problem, and then we'll just go from there. Because if they're federally, state, or locally recognized, there are some things that they have to adhere to. So if they're basically being racist or bigoted, then we'll deal with that. Yeah. And not from a standpoint of making them do something, but from the standpoint of, if you're going to not honor your ancestors and your sisters and brothers, then there's a mechanism to deal with that.
Start losing some of them so-called benefits.
At the end of the day, I mean, that's what you got those benefits for. So, Grand Rising Golden Moon, aka KD.
Peace, Golden Moon.
He says, I'm driving, but I'm listening. So, we were just offering a community update, Golden Moon, just talking about some of the new accesses that we're starting to find out as we're actually in the community, and talking to some of the community leaders and being a part of the solution instead of part of the problem. That's all. So is there anything else you want to add before we get down, so to speak?
No, that's only update at this moment.
All right. So I'm gonna go ahead and we're gonna switch gears and start talking about these 501c organizations that our ancestors' mechanisms set up that we still have access to. So we are still on the 501c tax-exempt organizations. And for those that are not aware, yes, your federal, state, and your locally recognized tribes are 501c entities, which is the reason why they're able to receive some of the benefits that they receive.
One more time for those that didn't hear.
Your federally recognized, state recognized, and locally recognized Indian tribes, whether they're American Indian or Native American Indian, are 501c. That's the reason why they're able to have some of the benefits that they have, and they have a government-to-government relationship, just like your foreign countries. So, something to think about. Wow. So I put the link to the 501c organization through Wikipedia in here so that we can take a look at this information together and, put it out here, share it, expose people to it, and they can, do their due diligence. And if they have any information that could either prove what's being spoken about today, or disprove with proof, then please share it with us. That's one thing that a conscious assembly is about, is dealing with the facts, dealing with the information that's presented, and going from there, not conjecture, speculation, or he said, she said. So the last organization that we talked about was the 501c23, which were your veterans organizations. And one veteran organization in particular that was talked about was the Aztec Group. It was 1874. And then we had a great conversation with Doodle Vision, aka James Flame, and how one thing that he said to me that stuck out was that a lot of the tribes, instead of going north to escape, they went south to Mexico to escape. And it's interesting, as you talk to some of the melanated tribes and lessly melanated tribes, you find out that they say the same thing. And one of the things that I think a lot of individuals who support, for lack of better terms, A-drip, UNDRIP, and sovereignty is that they don't really want to talk to the tribes, because what the tribes know is the history, and they corroborate each other's history because the history is shared, and these tribes have been dealing with each other for hundreds, in some cases thousands of years. And what I'm starting to find out, especially after talking to Copy Indio, is that the stories are lining up. Stories are being confirmed. So one of the biggest challenges to a movement that wants to be sovereign is don't talk to a tribe, because if you talk to a tribe, you'll find out that, these stories are corroborated and these tribes know about each other, and the rhetoric that they're spewing with no proof would easily be disproven. So that's a challenge. So they're not going to go talk to a chief. They're not going to record themselves going to a melanated or non-melanated or lessly melanated tribe and spit this information that they're spitting, because they don't have the history that these tribes have, which corroborates one another, even though they in some cases may be thousands of miles apart. So that's why we always encourage people to go talk to tribes, because it's not just the books that you're getting this information from. You're actually talking to some of the tribes that have a recorded history. That is, it can't be debunked. It's not mere speculation, or people banging on their chest claiming that they're the actual teachers when they have no proof. Grand Rising Aboriginal Power. So the 501c that we're going to start off talking about today is a 501c24, which is the ERISA Trust, and I will place that information in the back chat. So let's go ahead and get these hard hats on. Get your backhoes out. Get your boots. Get your shovels. Get your pickaxes. And let's get to digging. The Employee Retirement Income Security Act of 1974 is a federal United States tax and labor law that establishes minimum standards for pension plans in private industry. It contains rules on federal income tax, effects, or transactions associated with employee benefit plans. ERISA, as it's called for short, was enacted to protect the interests of employee benefit plan participants and their beneficiaries by requiring the disclosure of financial and other information concerning the plan to beneficiaries, establishing standards of conduct for plan fiduciaries, providing for appropriate remedies and access to the federal courts. ERISA is sometimes used to refer to the full body of laws that regulate employee benefit plans, which are mainly in the Internal Revenue Code and ERISA itself. Responsibility for interpretation and enforcement of ERISA is divided among the Department of Labor, the Department of the Treasury, particularly the Internal Revenue Service, and the Pension Benefit Guaranty Corporation. So let's talk a little bit about the history of the Employee Retirement Income Security Act of 1974. I've already put the link in the chat for those who want to follow, provide intel, or provide proof to debunk it. In 1961, U.S. President John F. Kennedy created the President's Committee on Corporation Pension Plans. The movement for pensions reform gained some momentum when the Studebaker Corporation, an automobile manufacturer, closed its plant in 1963. Its pension plan was so poorly funded that Studebaker could not afford to provide all employees with their pensions. The company created a program in which 3,600 workers who had reached the retirement age of 60 received full pension benefits. 4,000 workers aged 40 to 59 who had 10 years with Studebaker received lump sum payments, roughly 50% of the actual value of their pension benefits, and the remaining 2,900 workers received no pensions at all. 1963, Senator John L. McClellan of Arkansas began an investigation through the Permanent Investigation Senate Subcommittee into the labor leader George Barrash, alleging misuse and diversion of $4 million of the union benefit funds. Now remember, these unions are actually nonprofit organizations. After 3 years of the investigation had failed to find any wrongdoing, but had resulted in several proposed laws, including McClellan's October 12, 1965 bill setting new fiduciary standards for plan trustees. Additionally, due much in part to its dismay over Barrash's sole control over union benefit plan funds, Senator Jacob K. Javits, Republican of New York, also introduced bills in 1965 and 1967, increasing regulation on welfare and pension funds to limit the control of plan trustees and administrators and to address the funding, vesting, reporting, and disclosure issues identified by the Presidential Committee. His bills were opposed by business groups and labor unions, which sought to retain the flexibility they enjoyed under the pre-ERISA law. Provisions from all three bills ultimately involved in the guidelines enacted in ERISA. On September 12, 1972, NBC broadcast an hour-long television special, Pensions, The Broken Promise, that showed millions of Americans the consequences of poorly funded pension plans and ERISA vesting requirements. In the following years, Congress held a series of public hearings on pension issues, and public support for pensions reform grew significantly. ERISA was enacted in 1974 and signed into law by President Gerald Ford on September 2, 1974, Labor Day. In the years since 1974, ERISA has been amended repeatedly. And this goes back to what we've been saying for the past couple of days.
My.
When you are participating in a system that your ancestors created, that they got kicked out of, but can easily walk back into, which majority of them have, to being federally recognized, state recognized, and locally recognized, then you have the ability to influence legislation, which is the reason why these nonprofits were not only created, but how these nonprofits control legislation. So when a lot of these bills get enacted, it's usually because of the 501c4s, 501c5s, and 501c6s, which actually have permission and the right to influence elections and influence who's in office, especially on a federal level. Now, on a local level, on a community level, on a county level, the people actually have that control. You actually have more control on who gets elected in your area in a local election than you do in a federal election.
Bingo.
But with that being said, if you want to enact change federally, then You got to step up to the table. You got to step up to the plate. Again, I'm not saying that it's sad that we have to keep saying this. I'm not saying that that's the only way. That's the only way that I know that works. And there has been, up until this point, no other way proven that works. And I'm not saying there is no other way. I'm just saying I have not seen a way. Well, there has been no proof that another way works. There has been no other sovereign entity. There has been no other movement that has allowed people to step up to the plate and step up to the table and effect change. Period, point blank in the discussion.
I don't understand what we're afraid of.
Again,
you just let it be known that if you want to affect change, you start locally, that you have more influence over who you elect locally. So wouldn't it make sense if you don't like the way things are, you start getting together in communities, you start having little meets together, you find out who got the political ambitions and talents to do it. Then you start placing in your candidates and y'all start voting. Now, once you got your local down pat, guess what? Then you can take it a step further. But like we always said, if your doorstep ain't clean, you ain't going to Washington to sweep nothing.
And I don't know if people have been paying attention. Caught a glimpse of the fact that the antitrust laws are about to get more stringent because of what's going on with Amazon, what's going on with Facebook, and some of these other social media platforms that have a large stake and a large control financially. So be careful. Pay attention to these laws if that's what you're claiming you are about. These laws, these antitrust laws, are about to get real serious, and when they get real serious, they normally affect individuals that are not protected. So
yep.
Just because they put the name of Amazon on it, 9 times out of 10, they're not going after Amazon.
They won't.
Yeah, they're setting something up, so be careful.
And then again, I don't understand. I don't know. Maybe it's just me that's rising. We just get information for you to be informed, so you know what's going on. You know the good and the bad. Now, what you do with it, that's your choice.
Mm-hmm. Just like when we put out the information about the Black Identity Extremist list. That wasn't a list that we created. That wasn't a list that we made up in. My apologies if that upset you or that irritated you, but I'm still waiting on somebody to disprove that list and disprove what's going on in those, those articles that people have pulled up and how individuals have actually been arrested and incarcerated and held in prison for, a couple of months without the right to an attorney. And just because you know the law, and just because you know the worst part is, go ahead, what's up?
And I know the majority of members from A2, we know we put that out there not to hurt. We put it out there to inform. So some of us who don't know the consequences and repercussions of standing on platforms and talking reckless, it's a way of letting you know, like, listen, do what you're going to do, but calm it down. Because you're not going to jam us up. You're going to get yourself taken off the streets.
Yeah, so, when information is presented, when facts are presented, just prove it. That's all we're saying. Just prove it. If we give you an example of a concern, just like you would present an example of concern. Like one of the examples of concern for the 501c was that you are under total control of the government. I think we've more than proved that that's not the case. You're not under total control of the government. Matter of fact, you have more control being a 501c than you actually have with being a for-profit entity.
501c's picking presidents and political leaders and lobbyists.
So I don't know. That sounds like control to me. I don't think that sounds like being controlled. Maybe I'm wrong. But anyway, so that's what we're talking about from the standpoint of showing proof. So when someone brings up an issue, we come back, present the proof. And if there's something that, some issue or some proof that you got to disprove that, we just go back and forth with that. And they become talking points to build on. We don't make statements, throw them out there to create a narrative. So again, that's how a conscious assembly operates, in the AM during the rising. David Core says Amazon means larger than normal.
But it's just like that. People hear Amazon but don't know the companies that Amazon owns. They're all in your life.
Yeah, they are. So the 501c that we just discussed was a 501c24, which is the Employee Retirement Income Security Act of 1974. And it got enacted. That act opened up this nonprofit entity because of underfunded pensions, particularly one that Studebaker, which was a car company, had failed to meet the requirements to help their employees. That's basically what it boils down to. Again, nonprofits.
Studebaker?
Say again?
I guess that's what killed the Studebaker, huh?
It's possible. Again, nonprofits controlling resources, moving governments, influencing governments, especially the United States government. So let's move on, shall we?
I guess we shall.
So 501c25. 501c25. There is no link for this, but the title of the 501c5 or the companies that are under the 501c25, descriptions are title holding corporations or trusts with multiple parents. So what is a title holding corporation?
Here we go again. Put them vests on, y'all. Info falling all over the place. Dangerous situation. Falling info. Be careful.
Obviously, we understand that it's an organization that holds a title for a nonprofit or a for-profit, meaning the title does not reside with the corporation or the nonprofit entity, but it resides within the holding company, which protects it or gives it some, what's the term I'm looking for? It means you're not liable. The company
not liable for
gives it indemnity. That's the term I'm looking for. So
it'd be like, can't touch it.
So let's look at what title holding companies will get you. So, and a 501(c) is a title holding corporation for single parent corporations, but then you have title holding corporations for multiple parent corporations. So, let's look at the title holding corporations for single parent corporations.
Multiple parent organizations.
Let's look at the one for single parent corporations because we really ain't going into it too much.
We ain't not talking mother, father, and children here.
So, and this is from IRSzilla.com. Talks about taxes and status for your 501c2 title holding corporation. So title holding corporations for single parent corporations says if your organization wants to obtain recognition of exemption from federal income tax as a corporation organized to hold title to property, collect income from that property, and turn over the entire amount less expenses to a single parent organization that is exempt from income tax, it must file its application on Form 1024. The information to submit upon application is described in a section for discussion of the procedures for obtaining recognition for exemption. See Chapter 1, Application Procedures. So again, a title holding company is a corporation organized to hold titles to property. They also collect income from said property, and then they turn over the entire amount less expenses to the single parent organization. So if you think of it this way, a title holding company is no different than when you are renting out your single family residence and you bought another one. And you hire a realtor or real estate company to collect and handle the maintenance on your behalf. So that company, the realtor, collects the rent. They deal with the issues from the tenants, but they then in turn send the rental payments minus any expenses for maintenance to you. So if you replace the rental company with a title holding corporation and the you with the corporation said nonprofit, then that's exactly what you get. Okay, so hopefully that explains that. And again, you always want to consult a tax professional, an estate attorney, or a accountant for more information. So if there are single parent holding corporations, multiple parent holding corporations are nothing more than taking those earnings from that title company and dividing it between different parents, right? Meaning corporations that have more than one partner, if that makes sense.
Bingo again. That's it. They ain't talking to mama and daddy.
So I'm trying to find an example of title holder corporations with multiple parents. Let's see what the IRS has to say about this.
If I'm right, we all know a small, or we know a small broken down form of it. Pawn shop. Title loans, property loans at your pawn shops.
So I'll put the link in the chat for what qualifies as subsidies for these multiple parent companies. A major reason for having a title holding company is for the company's owner to limit its liability resulting from ownership by placing the property in a title holder company, a separate entity. Other reasons are to improve the owner's ability to borrow, clarify title, simply accounting, or comply with state law. Okay, so that's one of the reasons why you would do that. It says to understand the purpose of qualified subsidiaries, it is helpful to review the history of the IR1C 501 Code 2 as well as a 501c25. So this just talks about subsidies. So it doesn't give you a definition or better clarification of a multi-parent title holding corporation.
Title Max. When they say entitled, they just mean ownership, right?
Yeah, ownership or basically control.
So these car dealerships that hold multiple titles from multiple parent car companies. That if something go wrong, Title Max don't get jammed up by it, or the car lot. Who's sitting on it?
See your point. So here's another example based off of IRSZilla.com. I just put it in the chat. It says title holding corporations or a trust for multiple parent corporations. If your organization wants to obtain recognition of exemption from federal income tax as an organization organized for the exclusive purpose of acquiring, holding titles to, and collecting income from rental property, and turning over entire amount less expensive to member organizations exempt from income tax, it should file its application on the 1024 form, which they just totally talked about. And it says for discussion of the procedures for obtaining recognition of exemption, see Chapter 1, and then it also says who can control the organization. Organizations recognized as exempt under this section can have up to 35 shareholders or beneficiaries, in contrast to title holding organization recognized as exempt under Section 501c2, which have only one controlling parent organization. So that's the difference. You can have up to 35 shareholders or beneficiaries in a multiple parent corporation.
Yeah, that's why I'm glad I mentioned Title Max. Read this real quick because I remember hearing this in a meeting before. Title Max, INC is a privately owned title lending business. People think they're only dealing with automobiles, titles. What do you have to have a car for ownership?
You gotta have a title in order to own it. And it goes on and talks about organizational requirements. So to qualify as a 501c25 organization must be either a corporation or a trust. Only one class of stock is permitted in the case of corporation. In the case of a trust, only one class of beneficial interest is allowed. Organizations eligible to acquire or hold interest in types of title holding organizations are qualified: pensions, profit sharing, stock bonus plans, governmental plans, governments and their agencies and instrumentals, and charitable organizations. So these are all the organizations that are eligible to hold interest in this type of title holding organization. The articles of a corporation or trust instrument must include provisions showing that the corporation or trust is organized to meet the requirements of the statute, including compliance with the limitations on membership and classes of stock or beneficiaries' interests, and compliance with the income distribution requirements. The organization document must permit the organization's shareholders or beneficiaries to dismiss the organization's investment advisory, if any, upon a vote of the shareholders or beneficiaries holding a majority interest in the organization. So what does that mean? Constitution, bylaws. No matter how you slice it, no matter how you cut it up, no matter how you want to chop it
Get
up,
away from it.
you have to have your constitution and bylaws for your entity. And those constitutions and bylaws must include certain things. And that way you can keep the government out your business, because it lets them know that you are about handling your business.
Dun, dun,
And the
dun.
government only gets in your business when you have proven that you don't know how to handle nor mind your business. So I think that's what some people mean when they say government, you have no control with the government. Well, you have lots of control if you mind your business and you handle your business. If your constitutions and your bylaws are tight, then the government has no reason to be in your business, because that means you are handling your affairs. It's when you don't have your constitution and your bylaws tight and they're not listed and you're being deceitful, or there is deception and you're hiding them, that's when the government gets in your business.
Perfect example, Tom Brady versus the NFL. Tried to take it to the Supreme Court. What happened? We all watched this play out in real time. Was the Supreme Court able to change the NFL bylaws and constitution?
Nope.
Therefore, Tom Brady had to deal with a suspension.
And like when corporations end up getting sued by employees, whether they're melanated owned corporations or not, because there's plenty of cases, case law, look it up, it's easy to find. The number one thing that the prosecutor or the defense attorney for the corporation asks is, did you follow the procedures prescribed in your employee's manual? Did you go through the mechanisms for redemption in owner's manual? And if the answer is no, the case gets thrown out in court. So please don't tell me that this, I'll use a catchphrase a lot of people are using. The caste systems are mechanisms to hurt us, especially when you're talking about a caste system and you work in one. Be very careful, because your employer could easily come across your information and your rhetoric, and you could lose your job talking about the very caste system that you're a part of, that you're banging on. I'm just saying. These caste systems don't work, but they pay the majority of these people to spit this rhetoric's bill. So obviously it's working, because if it wasn't, the caste system that you bang on, that you're a part of, allows you to pay your cell phone bill. It allows you to pay your car note. It allows you to pay your rent, your mortgage. It allows you to, boost your YouTube pages or your social media pages. So it's working for you. But I'm sorry, I wasn't supposed to tell nobody that. So 501c25s. are nonprofit entities that allow other nonprofit entities to control and hold titles, collect rent, and control the monies of said entities. It basically is for liability purposes. So I'll put that information in the chat as well. Hopefully that helps. So we're on 501c25. Let's move on. David Corey said cars are not supposed to be registered. They are household goods.
Household goods are registered too, though.
Everything you purchase is tracked. How do you think your store knows what to? How do you think your store knows what to sell or resell and what not to resell? It's based off of what is purchased. And
Yep.
in stores like Walmart, the moment something is bought or they reach a certain threshold, it automatically gets recorded and it automatically gets reordered.
All electronics come with bill of sale certificates.
So let's look at the 501c26. 501c26, state-sponsored organization providing health coverage for high-risk individuals. I'm guessing, but they're going to prove it, that this is something that has happened recently, right? Health coverage for high-risk individuals. Let's see. Give me a second. Yeah, of course it's not. There's no link to it, so we have to do a little bit of digging. Let's see. High-risk insurance pools, state-sponsored health plans. Let's click on that, and then we'll also look at.
We ain't talking Obamacare.
High-risk pools for uninsurable individuals, the Henry J. Kaiser insurance pool. Okay, so let's look up these two. And this is on eHealth Insurance Services Inc. or ehealthinsurances.com. So it's going to give us a basic, bland description or definition, but it'll give us enough information for us to at least start to have a discussion on it. It says some states can decline health insurance applications if you have a pre-existing medical condition. However, many states offer health plans that are similar to the coverage in comprehensive individual health insurance plans. The states listed below offer a high-risk pool. The Department of Health and Human Services also offers a pre-existing condition insurance plan, PCIP, for individuals in states that do not have high-risk pool programs. Additional information on PCIP can be found on this website, which is healthcare.gov. How does a healthcare plan protect me / pre-existing conditions? It says you can also contact the Foundation for Health Coverage Education, FHCE. I bet you that's a nonprofit as well. Which basically says in the next paragraph, the next sentence, a nonprofit private organization. PHCE sponsors a Coverage for All website where you will find a list of the options available in your state. Use their helpful tools and expert assistance to find and apply for a broad variety of state-sponsored health coverage and public assistance programs. Beginning in the summer of 2010, health insurance high-risk pools will be strengthened and expanded as a result of health reform legislation. Also, as a result of health reform, high-risk pools may be phased out entirely in 2014, as consumers will be guaranteed coverage no matter what their health conditions are. So again, another non-profit private entity.
Why that sound like Obamacare though?
Well, yeah, when Obamacare got put into legislation, or when it was founded that Obamacare was going to get put into legislation, the Foundation for Health Coverage Education the nonprofit corporation was created.
Ain't that something?
But you wouldn't be able to do that unless you were active in your community and you knew what was going on. Grand,
Yeah, yeah.
Grand Rising, you don't want it. He says, wow. Well, she says, wow, don't know. Yeah, so let me read the other link for high risk. Henry J. Kaiser Family Foundation. You think that's a nonprofit? That's not a nonprofit, is it?
Sound like a non-profit to me.
It's a nonprofit exclusively dedicated to benefiting one entity, group, or person. Do your research on private foundations. Not to be confused with public foundations.
Yes, sir.
So, high risk pools for uninsurable individuals, and this is from www.kff.org. And anytime you see a .org designation, that means it's a nonprofit entity. And this was updated on February 22nd, 2017, originally posted August 1st, 2016, and it reads, in the debate over the future of the Affordable Care Act, ACA, proposals have emerged that would appeal or weaken rules prohibiting health insurance discriminating based on health status, instead of offering high-risk pools as a source of coverage for people who would be uninsurable due to pre-existing conditions. Last year, H.R. 2653 was introduced by members of House Republican Study Committee to repeal the ACA and replace it with other changes, including state high-risk pools. This bill would authorize $50 million for seed grants to help states establish high-risk pools and $2.5 billion annually for 10 years to help states fund high-risk pools. More recent ACA replacement proposals would modify ACA market rules to guarantee access to non-group coverage for individuals who maintain continuous coverage, but not necessarily for other individuals. Several proposals also would provide grants to states to help fund high-risk pools. Now, I'm going to go back and read something that I think that I would have normally missed. You might not have missed this, Bones, but I would have normally missed this, where it says this bill would authorize $50 million for seed grants. Who do you think would be able to benefit from those seed grants to help states establish high-risk pools? What are they actually saying those seed grants will be for? Those seed grants will actually be for those nonprofit entities that are actually stood up to receive that money to help create that pool. And then $2.5 billion annually for 10 years to help those states fund high-risk pools. Those high-risk pools are what this 501c26 is about. And if you don't understand nonprofits and you don't understand these entities that exist, you would not be able to take care of this. You would not be able to participate in this. You would just gloss over it, like I did for so many years, because I had no knowledge of this. So when you have the opportunity to be exposed to information that's beneficial, you can then share it and then vet it to make sure it's legit and then move forward from there. So whenever they're talking about, and when I say they, I'm talking about the government, whenever you're talking about ushering in a bill or a bill gets passed and it's authorized seed grants and money and finances, 9 times out of 10 it's going to go for nonprofits or for-profit entities that are tied to nonprofit entities that can access this money in all 50 states and territories. So they're letting you know ahead of time that this money will be available. It's up to you, it's up to me, it's up to us to create these entities to get access to this money, which is a form of resource that we can then help our communities, and if you so choose, your tribes.
Stop thinking all these budget increases were budget increases. These are mechanisms that already been in place. The money's there every year.
So just wanted to put that out, clarify that. Matter of fact, I'll send a link to this so people can take a look at it to, either add to it or debunk it with proof. That's how we operate over here at Tonsils Assembly. I know it makes people mad.
I'm still stuck on that. As a nonprofit, you can take an unlimited donation in finances and allowed to use 49.9% towards any political candidate or campaign you choose. Enough said to me.
David Corey asks if I think Monsanto's is a nonprofit 501c. David Corey, I'm going to do you one better. I'm going to look it up.
If they're not, there's a good chance they're attached to one.
Monsanto was an American agrochemical and agricultural biotechnology corporation founded in 1901. In 2018, it was acquired by Bayer as part of a crop science division. It was headquartered in Creve-Coeur, Missouri. Monsanto developed Roundup and glyphosate-based herbicide. Good grief. In the 1970s, it became a major producer of genetically engineered crops. Monsanto was one of the 4 groups to introduce genes into the plants in 1983 and was among the first to conduct field trials of genetically modified crops. It was one of the top 10 U.S. chemical companies until it divested most of the chemical business between 1997 and 2002 through a process of mergers and spin-offs that focused on company of biotechnology. Monsanto was one of the first companies to apply for a biotechnology industry business model to agriculture. So think of it this way. If you think of agriculture, you think of farms, right? If you think of farms, what nonprofits deal with farms? And I bet you they have people that sit on some of those boards of those nonprofits that actually have legislation that allows them to win grants and get money to promote what they're continuing to do, which is something that we don't do. So,
did anybody recognize in what you was reading? Monsanto is a chemical company that made Roundup.
mm-hmm.
So what do you think they were genetically modifying vegetables for? To make sure when you spray Roundup, it killed everything else except the crop. So what's in these crops? What's in this food already by default? Roundup. Same thing. It works the same way how they do with a vaccine. The vaccine is part of the virus in the vaccine.
Mm-hmm.
No different with genetically modified crops. Same principle.
So to answer your question, David Corey, they are listed as a corporation, but because they're dealing with agriculture, understand that agriculture and farms have nonprofits, and they also have lobbying mechanisms in your 501c4, 5, and 6s that allow them to sit on these boards and invest lots of money so they can get their agendas pushed.
You just made me think of something. I wonder what was the population of the area that Monsanto put their office in.
You said what was the area of the
Because by what I learned over the last couple of days, if that population where they was under 50,000, they qualified for an automatic rural grant with a minimum starting at 300,000.
And see, the beauty of that is when you understand how these grants and these things work, the books that these individuals put out about how they pull themselves up from their bootstraps, that veil gets peeled back. No, you didn't pull yourself up by your bootstraps. You took advantage of HUD funding that was meant for our people. That's how you did it.
That's what King was talking about. You put in mechanisms in place to help themselves, then locked us out and had the nerve to tell you pull yourself up by the bootstrap.
So they were granted this money. They didn't earn this money. They just took advantage of something that we were not taking advantage of because we were not privy to this information because of our limited exposure. Or we were involved in entities or individuals, family, organizations, and groups that forbade or highly suggested that we stay away from these entities and things of that nature so we could take advantage of them and benefit our family and eventually our tribes.
Sad part is when you got entities and individuals telling you to stay away from it, and they the main ones gaining from it.
Let me look up something right quick. The word business.
Double strap time, y'all. Double seat belts. CMA some bought up the jackhammer. About to get shaky.
So, according to Wikipedia, and can be supported by IRS as well. Say it, forget it, write it, regret it. Business is the activity of making one's living or making money by producing or buying and selling products, goods, or services. Simply put, it's an activity or enterprise entered into for profit. It does not mean it's a company's or corporation's partnership or have such formal organization, but it can range from a street peddler to General Motors. Having a business name does not separate the business entity from the owner, which means that the owner of the business is responsible and liable for debts incurred by the business. If the business acquires debts, the creditors, can go after the owner's personal possessions. A business structure does not allow for corporate tax rates. The proprietor is personally taxed on all income from business. The term is also often used colloquially, but not by lawyers or by public officials, to refer to a company. A company, on the other hand, is a separate legal entity that provides for limited liability as well as corporate taxes. A company structure is more complicated and expensive to set up, but offers more protection and benefits from the owner. So the reason why I wanted to look up business, because I've been hearing individuals who want to separate from the United States use the term business. So if you're going to use the term business, but you're going to separate, then you can no longer use the term business, because that basically implies that you're still in the system, or this caste system that you're talking about. So when you talk about conducting business or doing business, you're talking about being in a system that you bang against. So you might want to look for another term. Just something to think about.
But start looking at forming a company.
No, company puts you back in this caste system as well.
Oh, well, I guess they just out of options.
Because at the end of the day, if let's be honest, if we're going to continue to push separation, then let's create our own terms. Create your own terms and stop using terms that entice people to listen to you, but basically means they're being part of the caste system. So create another term. Don't say business, because that's the man's. I'm using air quotes. Don't say company, because that's the man's, and you create your own language. So create another term to mean that. That way, when you talk about separation and conducting business, you won't be committing a fraud, because you are being recorded. I'm not recording you.
No, we're not.
What I'm saying is, when you make statements against an entity and then you use those terms of that entity, you're basically committing fraud. Don't believe me? Look it up. So I just wanted to put that out there. That was a PSA, public service announcement. Because if you're going to do it all the way, or don't do it at all. So
it's up to the individual if they apply the information or not. But it is out there.
I'm just trying to help you out. And if you know law like you say you know law, then you know I'm not making this up, or it's not being made up. So that was 501c26, which is state-sponsored organizations providing health coverage for high-risk individuals. And now we're talking about and looking at the 501c27, which is state-sponsored workers' compensation reinsurance organizations. What in the world is that? 501c27s.
You're going to need a backhoe team.
Yeah, ready to get this work? So let's look at what a reinsurance company is. I'll put this in the back chat. Reinsurance. Free says that, is that why we speak English, so you couldn't change anytime you wanted? Free, I'm just trying to help people out, because we those people at that morning show.
For real?
Yeah, we don't do.
Oh man, I thought I had a name.
Not the Breakfast Club. Um, Reinsurance is insurance that is purchased by an insurance company in which some part of its own insurance liability is passed on, ceded to another insurance company. Say it again. Reinsurance is insurance that is purchased by an insurance company in which some part of its own insurance liabilities is passed on or ceded to another insurance company. The company that purchases the reinsurance policy is called ceding company or cedent or cedent, spelled C-E-D-A-N-T or C-E-D-E-N-T. Under most arrangements, the company is insuring the reinsurance policy and referred simply as a reinsurer. In the classic case, reinsurance allows insurance companies to remain solvent after major claims events such as major disasters like hurricanes and wildfires. In addition to its basic role in risk management, reinsurance is sometimes used to reduce the ceding company's capital requirements or for tax mitigation or other purposes. A company that Free says I didn't say that. It was David. I'm sorry, I got sidetracked. A company that purchased reinsurance pays a premium to the reinsurance company who in exchange would pay a share of the claims incurred by a purchasing company. The reinsurer may be either a specialist reinsurance company which only undertakes insurance businesses or another insurance company. Insurance companies that accept reinsurance refer to the business as assumed reinsurance. There are two basic methods of reinsurance. Facultative reinsurance. I'm sorry, go ahead, Bones.
No, these two parts going to get interesting here. There's two types, right?
Yeah, facultative reinsurance, which is negotiated separately for each insurance policy that is insured. Facultative reinsurance is normally purchased by ceding companies for individual risks not covered or insufficiently covered by their reinsurance treaties, for amounts in excess of monetary limits of their reinsurance treaties, and for unusual risk. Underwriting expenses and, in particular, personal costs are higher for such businesses because each risk is individually underwritten and administered. However, as they separately evaluate each risk reinsured, the reinsurer's underwriter can provide that contract more accurately to reflect their risk involved. Ultimately, a facultative certificate is issued by the reinsurance company to the ceding company, reassuring that one policy.
Guess what?
What's that?
That's what debt collectors fall under that.
Do they? Okay.
Think about it. A debt collector insures the debt of another company. All right, you got a bill to another company. Let's say credit card bill. How long a debt collector buys that debt? Technically, we say buy during that debt, and they take over. Oh my goodness!
Now I get what you're saying.
Because what they said is debts that insured that couldn't be paid back.
Or that was underfunded.
So we know that the government purposely allowed homes and stuff to be sold to people that they knew couldn't pay back these debts. Why did these companies do it? Because they insured it. Remember when the housing bubble, I don't know if everybody got deep into the information and learned about derivatives. What did the banks do? They bet against your loan. They bet that you couldn't pay the loan back. So if they bet you couldn't pay the loan back, that means that loan was reinsured. They were going to get their money regardless. You just lost your property in the process.
Exactly. Free said the 2008 bailout equals another attempt to keep money amongst themselves.
Yeah, because it was reinsured. So what did they really lose? Think about it. The bank gave you the loan. The bank got the reinsurance on the loan. When everything defaulted, the bank got your money, their money, and the property.
And then it was able to resell it after they got the money they got the money. Look, they got the money to revitalize it, and then they were able to resell it. So they made multiple profits off the same property.
One property. What?
So, treaty reinsurance means that the ceding company and its reinsurer negotiate and execute a reinsurance contract under which the reinsurer covers a specific share of all the insurance policies issued by the ceding company, which come within the scope of that contract. The reinsurance contract may obligate the reinsurer to accept insurance of all contracts within the scope, known as obligatory reinsurance. Or it may allow the insurer to choose which risk it wants to cede, with the reinsurer obligated to accept such risk, known as facultative obligatory or fac-oblig reinsurance. There are two main types of treaty reinsurance, proportional and non-proportional, which are detailed below. Under proportional reinsurance, the reinsurer's share of the risk is defined for each separate policy, while under non-proportional reinsurance, the reinsurer's liability is based on the aggregated claims incurred by the ceding office. In the past 30 years, there has been a major shift from proportional to non-proportional reinsurance in the property and casualty fields. David Court Bones, David says you sound like you're talking underwater, so you may want to relocate.
Is that called cleaner?
Nah, you might want to try something different. James, Doodle Vision, aka James Flynn, says, I come out of the lab to hear Mad Money with Jim Cramer has taken over a conscious assembly. So when we talk about the functions, almost all insurance companies have a reinsurance program. The ultimate goal of that program is to reduce their exposure to loss by passing a part of the risk of loss to a reinsurer or a group of reinsurers. Risks transfer. With reinsurance, the insurer can issue policies with higher limits than would otherwise be allowed, thus being able to take on more risk because some of that risk is now transferred to the reinsurer.
What financial institutions did not lose in the housing market? Wasn't it the credit unions?
Yeah, the credit unions did not lose, yeah.
And credit unions insure banks' money. And other credit unions can insure credit unions.
Right.
Could this be their mechanism?
It sounds like it. And then those insurance companies have reinsurance. It says almost all insurance companies have a reinsurance program. So those reinsurance programs take on some of that loss so that the insurance companies don't have as much exposure. It's another form of limited liability when they say exposure. Meaning that if there's a heavy loss or there's a catastrophe, the company remains solvent, which basically means that they're still able to pay their bills, pay their debts, and still remain able to operate. That's what solvency means. Meaning you don't have to file for bankruptcy, because you owe more out than you're paying, you're bringing in. That's basically all that means. So that's reinsurance. So I'll put that link in there for people to read it and look at it. David Corey says, go on and come back because you're still sounding choppy.
That's cleaner.
It's even worse now. So that was your 501c27, your state-sponsored workers' compensation reinsurance organizations. So these are the insurance. These are the state-sponsored insurance companies that insure insurance companies.
Wow.
So your 501c28s are your National Railroad Retirement Investment Trust. These are your 501c28s. Doodle Vision, there's a link for you in your email if anytime you want to join us. So National Railroad Retirement Investment Trust, which are your 501c28s. So let's let's get to getting, shall we? The U.S. Railroad Retirement Board, RRB, is an independent agency in the executive branch of the United States government created in 1997 to administer a social insurance program providing a retirement benefits to the country's railroad workers. The RRB serves U.S. railroad workers and their families, and administers retirement, survivor, unemployment, and sickness benefits. Consequently, railroad workers, wow, I don't know why that's hard for me to say. Railroad workers do not participate in the United States Social Security program. Wait, what? How is that possible? The RRB's headquarters are
Because who built the railroads? Think about it. Who was responsible for the engineering of the railroads? United States Army Corps of Engineers.
Mm-hmm.
That's why the railroads is a part of the executive branch of the government.
Got it. Doodle Vision says, who's monitoring the monitors that's monitoring the monitors? Will Smith's wife on Enemy of the State. LJ Free says, this is beginning to sound more and more like the game of Monopoly. I see where the concepts must have come from. Exactly, Free.
Bingo.
In connection with the retirement program, the RRB has administrative responsibilities under the Social Security Act for certain benefit payments and railroad workers' Medicare coverage. During fiscal year 2009, retirement survival benefits of some $10.5 billion were paid to about 589,000 beneficiaries, while net unemployment sickness benefits of 160 million included over 10 million in temporary extended unemployment benefits under the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act of 2009 were paid to more than 40,000 claimants. At the end of the fiscal year 2017, the average annuity paid At the end of the fiscal year 2017, the average annuity paid to career rail employees was $3,415 a month compared to $1,370 a month under Social Security. Railroad retirement benefit payments are financed primarily by payroll taxes paid by railroad employers and their employees. Since 2002, funds not needed immediately for benefit payments or administrative expenses have been invested by an independent National Railroad Retirement Investment Trust, which qualifies as a 501c28. As of September 30, 2009, trust managed assets of RRB assets held in reserve total almost $25 billion. The history. Keep in mind that this is a trust.
People don't want to do their genealogy. Some of us got ancestors that's tied back into them railroad workers, but how would you know if you don't do your genealogy?
Big facts.
So let me repeat that last part so those can hear. Since 2002, funds not needed immediately for benefit payment or administrative expenses have been invested by an independent National Railroad Retirement Investment Trust, which qualifies as a nonprofit 501c28, which basically means that there are nonprofits that allow you to take the funds that are sitting in the corporation and reinvest it for profit and dividend purposes. As of September 30, 2009, trust managed assets and RRB assets held in reserve total almost $25 billion.
But we're in a recession, though.
Yeah, some of us are. The assignment furlough and recall of most railroad employees was based on seniority. When work became scarce, employees with the least seniority were the first to be laid off. The majority of railroad workers were covered by pension plans, but private pension payments would be reduced if revenues were down, and many had been cut drastically by 1984. This practice created a conflict between older employees who preferred the certainty of a paycheck to an unreliable pension. And younger employees who saw opportunity for increased job security if superannuated workers could be induced to retire by guaranteeing them a decent pension. Railroad workers formed an association to agitate for government action. I'm going to say that again. Railroad workers formed an association to agitate for government action. One more time for the cheap seats. Railroad workers formed an association to agitate for government action. The Department of Labor proposed its own plan in response, eventually compromising with the workers to produce the Railroad Retirement Act of 1934. The legislation anticipated the Social Security Act of 1935, which covered most other employees and was tailored to address the specific concerns of railroad workers.
I know who they fooling. Social Security was created right along with that, right? They took the money from Social Security to pay railroad workers. Who they fooling? Who are they fooling?
So LJ Free says, whoa, a trust within a trust? This is like Russia doll one inside another only to find another. Mm-hmm.
To find another.
And she also reads, my grandfather drove an 18-wheeler delivery railroad ties to various locations. Doodle Vision says, I still have my Russian Santa Claus. See what we're uncovering or discovering is that there is a game that's being played and we were not privy to. We didn't have the pieces. We weren't even invited. But we were not excluded because this information has been here.
Public info.
So I don't know. Where do we start with this? What do we do with this? Do we blame society for oppressing us? And yes, there have been oppressive situations. I'm not gonna sit there and say it's not. We've also been responsible for oppressing ourselves and our brothers and sisters and harming our brothers and sisters by misinformation and putting them in situations to where they end up getting locked up. So we're just as guilty as everybody else. Mr. TJ says, wow, ignorance is not bliss, but stomach turning. Yeah, it is, Mr. TJ. Doodle Vision says it's Monopoly mixed with the game of life. Facts.
Yeah, facts.
So if that's the case, and there is a board that we're playing on, and I'm just work with me, follow the thought. There's a board that we're playing on. There are rules for this game. We have now been privy to the rules. So we have a choice. It's no different than you coming over my house and playing spades. The first thing you want to know are my house rules, right?
Yep.
Say we playing spades, and I play, joker, deuce, meaning spades. The spade trumps are big joker, little joker. Then the 2 of spades trumps the ace of spades. That's how we play at my house. But if you come over my house and you don't know that, and then we play, and then you're cutting hearts, and you throw down a king of spades, and I'm cutting hearts, and I throw down a 2 of spades, why are you getting mad? Because you didn't ask me about what the rules of my games in my house. Now let's do this a little bit differently. Let's just say you leave your own house. I now own your house. And then you come back to the house. And now you're playing. And we play that same game of spades. I mean, because you don't know the rules, and we might be playing for the house. And I cut your king of spade with the 2 of spade. And I get to keep your house. You either A, learn how to play the game based off of the rules, or you petition the state to give you the deed to the house because you were the original owner and you have no proof. The choice is yours.
Simple. We know the rules now. It's time to get in the game to play. Stop complaining from the sideline and the bleachers.
I ain't playing spades with TMH.
You said you're not playing spades.
It takes my house in a game of spades. I just wanted to have some fun.
And see, that's what happens. Sometimes you end up doing stuff for fun and end up losing your shirt or your house.
Yep.
It's called being off code.
It wasn't fun to you, but it was fun to the person that won it.
And you still sound like Optimus Prime, Bones. I don't know where you at. Get out the basement, bro.
1 2 1 2.
Now that sounds good. Stay there. Don't move. Stay there.
I ain't even moved.
Okay. I don't know what it is then. I do not know what it is. I don't know. I don't know. Are you let's see. Let's see where we at. That was a 501c 28, right?
Yep.
Do we want to go to the 501c 29 qualified nonprofit health insurers, or do we want to stop here? Doodle Vision says sovereign citizens yelling they have 15 impossible.
Man, they at the spade table playing gin rummy.
Hey, Bones. I know sellout. I'm gonna need about a good 2 minutes, so can y'all take over right quick? I'll be right back in 2 minutes.
Yeah, no problem, no problem.
All right.
Yep. David Corey said, I don't want to play no more. He said, how many books are there? It's not the thing about the books. A lot of this information is just public government information. It's like we're going to keep saying, it's getting active in your community. It's taking the time out to go out and meet your local politicians and local officials. You got to remember, these people are voted in locally. And these people, they use their influence to inflect state policy or county policies. And we have to realize that affects more than federal policy right now. We got to change the local playing field before we go to the big game. Some of us get a big game without even playing the stage yet. What you were saying?
Exactly. No, I was saying, get involved locally first. Trying to go up to the big leagues, not really making no noise. Start locally, where you can actually make some noise at.
Mm-hmm. I mean, yes, it seems difficult, but it's really not. We have to start back communicating. Oh, David Corey said, no, I'm talking about Doodoo's game, solving citizenship. Well, whoever want to play that, go ahead. No, I'm not playing it.
How many books? One. Book them, Dano.
Yeah, book them, Dano. That's the only book they're going to get. What he said, when you get, Doodoo Vision said, when you get a chance, look up Georgiaism, then you can get a better understanding of 501Cs. Thanks for that bit of info this rising.
Georgism. What is Georgism? Georgism.
What you was looking it up now? No sellout or?
Let me see if I can get it.
Give us a second. He's looking it up real quick. But yeah, we get out here in our neighborhood, start meeting our neighbors. And we can't say this enough. It starts at home. People are quick to tell you that you can't change the world. But me, I don't accept that, because your world is what you consist around on a daily basis. So by default, you can change your world by the things that you're doing. Now, what we're reading from David Corey is the nonprofits 501c category, and it's on Wikipedia. If you move back up, the link is in here a couple of times, and I'll get it reposted. like we said, this is just basic info, public info that a lot of us were not aware of, or a lot of us overlooked, or were taught not to pay attention to. What Judu said, go straight to jail, do not pass go, and do not collect $200. Exactly. Gonna cost you to get there and cost you to get out. Well, Mr.
I think I found it.
Found it? All right.
Yeah, I'm gonna read this and wait for Dudu to tell me I'm right or wrong with what I found.
All
So
right.
Georgism, if I'm saying that right, Georgism. Also, geoism is a single tax archaic, and single tax archaic is an economic ideology holding that while people should own the value they produce themselves, economic value derived from land, often including natural resources and natural opportunities, should belong equally to all members of society. Let me read that one more time.
One more time.
Georgism, also called geoism and single tax, archaic, is an economic ideology holding that while people should own the value they produce themselves, economic value derived from land, often including natural resources and natural opportunities, should belong equally to all members of society. So, developed from the writings of economist and social reformer Henry George, the Georgist paradigm seeks solutions to social and ecological problems based on principles of land rights and public finance, which attempt to integrate economic efficiency and with social justice.
The dude said you own it. That's the one.
Yep.
Don't that sound like a 501c described? Believing in.
Let's see. Georgism is concerned with the distribution of economic rent caused by natural monopolies, pollution, and control of commons, including title of ownership for natural resources and other contrived privileges, e.g., intellectual property. Any natural resource which is inherently limited in supply can generate economic rent, but the classical and most significant example of land monopoly involves the extraction of common ground rent from valuable urban locations. Georgists argue that taxing economic rent is efficient, fair, and equitable. The main Georgist policy recommendation is a tax assessed on land value. Georgists argue that revenues from a land value tax, LVT, can be used to reduce or eliminate existing taxes, for example, on income, trade, or purchases that are unfair and efficient. Some Georgists also advocate for the return of surplus public revenue to the people by means of a basic income or citizens' dividend.
What Dudu said, this is why the majority of your 501c entities are tax exempt. For this reason right here, this idea, this ideology.
And citizens' dividend is a proposed policy based upon the principle that the natural world is the common property of all persons. See Georgism. It is proposed that all citizens receive regular payments, dividends, from revenue raised by leasing or taxing the monopoly of valuable land and other natural resources. That's citizens' dividend.
Under a belief that the resources on your land belong to everybody, huh? Grand Rising James Gilmore. Free said that campaign button for the Georgism is quite interesting.
You see that? Do you see the cat? Let me post. Well, I guess you got to give me some hot links when no meat. When I post these links, I need a hot link. I'm gonna post this Georgism. To show you know.
Yeah, Dudu said this is why Texans don't state pay income. David Corey says something ain't right.
Something ain't never right.
But you're
I got
seeing,
a hot link.
you get to see the mechanisms that they're using. And not only do you get to see the mechanisms that they use, you get to see how they apply them. Doodoo, quick question. Is this the reason why in Texas you can still own what's above the ground and under the ground when you buy property? Because I know the property laws in Texas are completely different when it comes to ownership and what you can own. Yeah, because I know Florida don't got state tax. Florida, Texas. Glad you made it back, Pamela Hall.
Got a hot link. Cool.
Yeah, David,
No,
for rights. And as you remember, yeah, Doodoo Vision said yes. As you remember, when we was talking about some of these tribes sold the rights to minerals that were on their land.
Actually upset. You didn't know
Yeah, I remember reading that above and below because I was looking at property out there in Texas. When I went out that way, they was telling me about it.
that. Okay. I don't know what they have other than.
I'm like, wow.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, we see the mechanisms. We see how these mechanisms are used. Now it's up to us to apply the mechanisms so we can get out these situations.
Is it me, or does it seem like Georgism is basically copying off of some of the principles that our ancestors adopted?
Yeah, they just expanded it to say that the minerals and property and land of the world belongs to everybody of the world. So now you create these entities that's supposed to be the representation of the people of the world to control these resources and land.
Grand Rising James Gilmore. See if there's anybody else on this. I think this have everybody. Yeah, they say it belongs to everybody, whereas our ancestors said it doesn't belong to anybody, but our job is to be a steward. To make sure that we pass it on for 7 generations or greater.
Seems to me we found the true benefit of the Indian agent. Why there was a big push to get the American Indian to pick up colonialism, to pick up European lifestyles and culture, to get you to walk away from your old ways.
Well, one way to get it back is to walk back through these doors and use our legislative powers that we once had, which is when they was complaining in 1906 there were too many of us, so they wouldn't be able to vote anything in. That's how we got kicked out. There was too many of us.
They couldn't bring down what we know as Black Wall Street until they did the legislation for it. 1906. Congressional meetings are public info. It is public info. You can look up this information to read it for yourself. You don't have to take our word for it. All court cases is public info. All congressional hearings, you can look up times, minutes, what was said.
Facts, and more facts. And that was, you said that was Georgism, correct?
Yep. Or geoism.
Grand Rising, Carrie Bay.
Peace, Carrie Bay. Glad you was able to catch this cat this rising.
There's a link for you and James, aka Doodle Vision, in your emails. It was sent this morning around 7:40. So if you check emails, you'll see it. Doodle Vision says yes, too many of us. So, everybody has a right to self-identify. Everybody has a right to whatever it is you feel that's going to be in your best interest to do what it is for your people, regardless how you self-identify yourself. At a conscious assembly, the only thing we say is be aware of the pitfalls, and we're suggesting for those that want to hear that you go with something that's working and that has worked for many people. And again, we're not saying or stating that we support whitewashing our own people.
That's crazy.
Kowtowing to a tribe that wants nothing to do with us. That's not what we're saying.
No.
But we are willing to work with those tribes that honor their ancestors and want to reconnect with their brothers and sisters so that we can get back on code. Period, point blank. And you do not have to leave your state of residence or have to go be on a reservation.
Wallowing in the mud, as some would say.
You don't have to do any of that. So, we just want to, set the record straight, right? So, speaking of that, it's time to transition to that, unless someone has anything they want to say about the 501c before we go to our last segment of Set the Record Straight.
No, crystal clear here.
All right. No, Salah, is there anything that you want to add?
Nope.
Oh, Doodle Vision put something very important. He said the game of Monopoly was created in 1903. In 1906, they said it was too many of us. Think about it.
In order to get a monopoly, they had to disperse us. They knew they couldn't get us all off the land, so what you do? You convince us to break up into smaller groups, and we did it voluntarily in most cases.
Mr. TJ says, how many 501s are there? Now, Mr. TJ, so I can understand your question, are you asking how many different 501 entities are there, or how many 501 entities are in existence in the United States? Because those are two different questions. So are you asking us how many 501c companies are in existence, or are you asking how many different sectors of 501 are there? Because right now we've covered everything from 501c1 to 501c28. So I want to make sure I understand your question before I answer. Oh, he said how far we got to go. So there is the 501c29, and then you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 more 501 entities or equivalents. So we have 16 more to go.
Woo-wee!
David says, damn, I missed 7. 7 was covered on... What day was 7 covered on? That was covered on... They had to be covered on Thursday. If you missed 501c7.
That's Thursday's show, because we did 1 through 6 on Wednesday's show.
Okay. So, with that being said, we're going to do a quick segment of Set the Record Straight. And then we're going to be up out of here. Alright. So, Set the Record Straight. This segment is to basically address issues, concerns, critiques, complaints, accusations, and the like And sometimes just to make sure that people understand where a conscious assembly or individuals of a conscious assembly stand on certain things. So for the record, I want to let everybody know that the Conscious Assembly is a nonprofit organization whose sole purpose is to help the people and their communities do their genealogy, find their tribes, and help their tribes. Understanding that not all tribes want to be involved with the melanated Indian. We'll just put it from that perspective. And we have no intentions on mandating or demanding that a tribe of Indians be involved with us. But insofar as the surnames and the genealogy proves, if said tribe chooses not to recognize their ancestors and their sisters and brothers, then there are mechanisms in place to take care of that said tribe. So it's not that we're going to be begging you for anything, because quite honestly, we don't need you. That's not being said out of disrespect. That's being said out of facts. You're coming with a hand up, not a handout. The majority of stuff that we know, y'all don't know. Because if you did know, you'd be putting them in place. So at the end of the day, we are in full support of every race preservation, including our own. So we believe in staying on code. We are not kowtowing or promoting the caste system to the point of the detriment of our people.
No.
We're not telling you what you should be. We're not telling you how to classify yourselves. We're not saying everybody is Indian. We're not saying everybody is a Tauntaunist. That's not our thing. That's not what we do. You know. But we do like to from time to time address some misnomers and correct some untruths out there by presenting some factual information. And so one of the things I want to set the record straight on is this caste system that I keep hearing about that people are banging on. Number one, here's a question that you can ask whenever someone talks about a caste system. Number one, do you work for somebody? Because if you work for somebody, you're talking about a caste system, then what are you talking about? And I say that from the standpoint not of that having a job is bad. I say that from the standpoint of how are you going to have the audacity to talk about a caste system and getting out of a caste system, and you have a job, meaning that you're part of the caste system that you're talking about, and all that would be required is for your boss to find out that you're doing this and you could be fired, therefore keeping you from taking care of your family. Tell me how that makes sense. So whenever someone's banging on a caste system, the first question I would like to ask them is, are you working for somebody? Are you employed by somebody? Does somebody control your income, which means they control your outcome? And if the answer is yes, then it might be wise for you not to talk about a caste system until you are out of such caste system. That's the first thing I like to clear up. And for the record, no, I don't have a boss. I'm my own boss. Now, I was fired from the caste system, for those of you who like to use that term. I've been out of that quote unquote caste system since 2013. Don't believe me? Do the research. Number two, we all heard about the untimely death of the hip hop artist known as Nipsey Hussle. And there was a large outpouring of support for Mr. Hussle from the conscious community, and rightfully so. And they were touting how this individual poured all of his money and resources into his community of LA.
You think?
But what they failed to realize, and what they ignored, and what they did not state, was that Nipsey, who was classified as an American rapper, and who some of these people in the conscious community bang on Africans, they don't know what part of his nationality is. Does anybody know what Eritrea is?
Ooh, ooh, ooh.
What's Eritrea? Do you know, Bones? Eritrea, excuse me.
What you would call them coming from the continent of Africa?
Yeah, Eritrea is a northeastern African community on the Red Sea coast. It shares borders with Ethiopia, Sudan, and Djibouti. The capital city is Asmara. It's known as its Italian colonial buildings like St. Joseph's Cathedral, as well as Art Deco structures like Italian, Egyptian, and Turkish architect, and Massa will reflect the port city's colorful history. Notable buildings here include St. Mariam Cathedral and Imperial Palace. So why am I mentioning this? Because certain people don't read and do their research. You're going to bang on Africans, and then you're going to talk about and give credit to an African, part African, who's doing something in his community of LA.
Hi.
Now, his mother is Louisiana and Creole, but his father is from Eritrea. So that would make him African American. Legitimately.
Y'all do some research now. Come on, that's all we asking. Get it correct.
Who you also bang on.
Come on, get it correct, man.
And then you talk about this caste system, but you talk about all these great things that Nipsey Hussle did. This African American individual hip hop artist. Not only does Nipsey has nonprofits, Nipsey has many nonprofits that took advantage of HUD 3. He also had a contract with Puma, who was taking advantage of the Section 3 opportunities in Los Angeles.
Well. What is Section 3 again, may I ask?
Section 3 is a HUD opportunity that allows individuals to receive funds for servicing a urban community. So you bang on a caste system, but you support a brother, and rightfully so, for taking advantage of the same caste system that you dump on. Not only that, but it was said that Nipsey was involved in his prior years before he passed, before he became a record artist, was involved in some gangs. So I know why you won't bang on Nipsey Hussle, and I know why you won't say anything about him being part of the caste system, because those same goons you claim you got, if they found out that you was talking bad about Nipsey, they probably come at your doorstep. But here's the thing I like to say to you. Do your research before you open your mouth. It's idiotic to bang on a caste system when the person that you're giving credit to is part of the caste system that you bang against. I'm going to drop a link also of him, Nipsey, being talked about having a disdain for people saying that they should idolize hip-hop artists. Nipsey said that you should be paying homage to people like Elon Musk and the owner of Google.
Mark Zuckerberg.
Who are people that are in the caste system that you bang on. But you support Nipsey Hussle, who is part of the caste system that you bang on. But you won't say anything about Nipsey Hussle supporting his caste system, because if you do, those goons that you claim that you got will be knocking on your door because you're scared.
And isn't it funny that the same mechanisms that we're taking and applying to our communities on a local level is the same mechanisms the brother Nipsey Hussle used in his lifetime?
Interesting, isn't it?
So it's cool when a real African American access it, but when the American Indian try to tell other American Indians about it, you're an agent now.
But they won't say that about Nipsey, because them goons they claim they got gonna be knocking on their door. So, I'm just saying.
And like Doodoo said, all the brother did was took a page out of Magic Johnson's book. You think basketball money helped them get all them Burger Kings in the hood? Y'all better look it up. Last I remember, McDonald's and Burger King title holding companies, right?
Oh yes, they are. Hmm.
People, you think it's a restaurant? No, 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 my friends.
So I just wanted to set the record straight on that. That there are individuals that are making statements that are contrary to the fact, and you make yourself look a little crazy because you don't do a lot of reading. So shout out to Nipsey Hussle and his family and the organizations that he partnered with to allow the LA community to recognize what they could potentially do, because those communities will continue to grow and thrive because they will have now access HUD 3, and it will continue to grow and thrive because of HUD 3. The caste system that many people, including some people that have jobs that are part of the caste system, are actually participating in. And that's all I got to say as far as setting the record straight.
Free. I think Golden Moon was talking about he don't see what the problem is with other people who want to send shots or with the other guys or with this and that, because we're trying to encourage people to do their genealogy, find your tribe and tie back into your tribe. I guess that makes us the bad guys. If that's the case, I wear that proudly.
Run away from your ancestors. I'm the bad guy.
Because we're telling you the consequences of getting on a public platform and speaking radical. What you do, that's your choice. We're just informing you of the dangers of doing that. We're informing our people of the dangers of following behind that. But still, at the end of the day, each individual have their own choice to make. Our responsibility is, if I see something wrong, I'm just going to call the wrong out. And it's your choice to do what you choose to do.
What's wrong with that?
I don't have to answer for it. You do. I informed you of the right and wrong. That's my only responsibility.
And Golden Moon, aka, has a great question. Says, why do we gotta pick a side? I don't know y'all are not riding the fence. I'm here to get the information, that's all, in the hopes to meet you all one day. Well, Golden Moon, that's a great question. And at the end of the day, we live in a perceived free country. You don't have to pick a side, and it's not about picking sides. What we're talking about, what Atacha's Assembly is talking about is, and I'm going to use me, Grand Rising Mark Wilson. I'm going to use myself. I can't talk about something my neighbor is doing, i.e., the axle, the broken axle in their front yard, and their grass not being cut. If I have 4 junked cars and you can't see my front door because of my high grass, that considers me to be a hypocrite. And what I'm saying from that standpoint is, we need to clean up our house. And by cleaning up our house, what we're referring to is not associating with scammers. Scammers, by definition, are individuals who charge money for a product and service and do not deliver. So if we're trying to get stuff taken care of and we're accusing the government of scamming us, but we're in turn scamming our community, how are we able to talk about the government when we're doing the same thing we're accusing the government of doing? So when we talk about being on the side of right and getting right and being on code, we're talking about eradicating, eliminating, and removing ourselves from people that are scamming the community and causing the community harm. You have the right to do what you want to do as an individual, as a group. And I have a right to not associate with you if you're scamming. And if you associate with somebody that's a scammer, and you might not be one, then I will not deal with you because you're becoming neutral, and not you in particular, speaking in generalities. Because at the end of the day, by not correcting that individual or those individuals and not saying anything, if those individuals or that group decide to cause me harm, then because you are privy to both sides, you won't say anything. And that's problematic to me. So to keep any harm from coming to any of us, it is safest that I remove myself from anybody that's going to be detrimental to me, my family, and the group that I'm basically pledging to protect. So
Facts.
so when people say we should all unite, I'm hesitant and reticent to unite with anybody that's going to cause people any harm. I cannot and will not unite with scammers. I cannot and will not unite with somebody that could potentially be on the black identity extremist list, because that could put somebody I know or even myself in jail. That doesn't make any sense to me. Now, if that's something that somebody wants to do, that's fine, but keep that over there. That has nothing to do with me. So for those individuals talking about we're causing division, this, that, and the third, we're not causing division of anything. Stop scamming, and there won't be any division.
It's just that simple. I mean, in life, you have to choose a side. And what I mean by choose a side is it's right and wrong. If something's wrong and you go along with it, or you turn the blind eye, you're just as guilty. This is not a game here. This is life. We cannot afford to let anyone, not even ourselves, get in the way of the next 7 generations. That's what we do this for. We do this for 7 generations from now. We'll never know the pain that we had to experience as children. And to me, that's a worthy fight to make sure that this information don't get used the wrong way. How many years have we been in this country with these mechanisms around and not accessing them? And how many people who look like us have been accessing them and using them for their personal gains? There are consequences to our actions. And here at a Thompson Assembly, we cannot allow radical speeches, radical points of views to block these mechanisms from our people that's hurting in real time, that need real help.
At the end of the day, it's not about throwing shots. It's about calling out what's right and what's wrong. And case in point, when people talk about snitching, that movement and that program got started after the gangster rap it got issued. And anybody that's from the hood knows that when they say no snitching, they weren't talking about not reporting a theft or a crime in your community. No snitching was specifically exclusive to if you and I commit a crime and I get caught, I don't snitch on you. That's where no snitching started. But then it became a movement from you and I commit a crime and me not telling to you commit a crime against a family member of mine and I had nothing to do with it and I know you did it and not snitching. That's the environment that we live in today. Not correct or wrong. So throwing shots, no one's throwing shots. We're just speaking truth. The truth of the matter is there are people that are scamming people. There are people that are collecting money from people and not providing a service. So how is that throwing a shot? That's a fact. If somebody was robbing people in your neighborhood, are you trying to tell me you wouldn't want to know about that? Because if I know somebody, so we all live in a neighborhood, right? There are 20 houses in this neighborhood. Somebody's burglarizing houses. So if I say that somebody's burglarizing houses and I know who did it, am I now taking shots? So
yeah, how's that a shot?
Go ahead.
That's what I want to know. How's that a shot when you're standing up for truth? See, that's the problem with our community. We are not taking accountability for our actions or the lack thereof. And we can bring all the information to the forefront that there is out there. We can give access to all the mechanisms that are in place. But the solutions for us are not going to start moving until we clean up our own situations. Just like Tim May said, we have to remove it, because how can we move forward? How can you move forward when you do have the scamming going on, when you do have the personal agendas going on? These are the things that have to stop, because it's dangerous. People are not taking the time out to realize the ramifications of what you do today. Everything that is done is recorded. Don't take my word for it. Go back and look at the Patriot Act. Or go back recently and see how many people have been picked off from online communities and channels from their stands. And I'm not saying that to be afraid. I'm telling you, be cautious, be aware. But then if you want to go that route, hit the gas, speed up. What you wasting time for? Wreck out. So you know you hit the wall. Make no mistake about it.
Go to Moon. I know what you're talking about. I know who in reference you're talking to. But you have to remember, there are people that may not be reading the chat because they're listening, and there are people that don't know what's going on. So we have to reiterate and restate something so they'll be able to catch up and be understanding of what's going on. So this is not a personal attack or shot at anybody. We're just hoping people understand where we come from. Because at the end of the day, you have to be, you don't have to be. I'm the type of person that prefers to be on the side of right, and if I'm doing something wrong, let me know. That's how I operate. I would like to think that anybody from a conscious assembly that sees me doing something incorrectly, or I'm doing something that's wrong or detrimental, you let me know, and I can correct it.
Same here.
I hope they wouldn't let me continue to do something wrong and then don't say anything, and then we cause a bigger problem. Because if we're trying to take care of our communities, and then we're going to address a bigger problem, like tribes potentially being racist and bigoted, how are we going to correct those tribes that are being racist and bigoted when we're not even correcting people that are still in our own community? Case in point, when United States gets on Iran about the way they treat their women, and you know what Iran's retort is? Look how you treat the African American community. So how can you say something about how we treat women when you treat the African American community, even the women, worse than you say we treat our women? Now what retort does the United States have to say? Because they aren't even cleaning up their own house. That's all I'm saying. We have to clean up our house. We have to correct things. There has to be a line of demarcation saying these are the things that we will not tolerate. And if you're on that side of the fence, you stay over there. Now, if you want to correct it and get right, that's fine. So, Born Free says, I'm so confused right now. What's going on? Is there a divide in the community?
Some will make you think that. And to clear it up, we state it all the time. Autonomous Assembly is not a YouTube channel. Autonomous Assembly is a non-profit organization that uses YouTube as an outlet. So therefore, we are in contact and in working with local governments to bring needed help to communities. Not speaking for what nobody else is doing, but we cannot afford to align ourselves with these radical behaviors because by default, we lose the mechanisms and benefits that we're bringing to our communities. So we're supposed to lose what we discovered, what we uncovered, what we learned how to apply in real time. We're supposed to lose all this to stroke somebody's YouTube character ego? I pass.
Golden Moon said, I would love to see all of us in the same room. I don't know if that's going to happen, David. Golden Moon. The reason why that is because there are some things that people are choosing not to correct and choosing not to address, and they're creating false narratives. The best way to put it is, you have people that are allowing certain behaviors to exist and they're not saying anything and they're acquiescing in it because they are so financially invested that they're hoping that these individuals get it right. And that they're hoping that the activities that they're participating in will right the wrong, which is in turn resulting in greed. But then they want to accuse us of being greedy and being agents of greed when we're a nonprofit entity. So, and like you, Golden Moon, I do want to see change if we are putting things in place to make a change.
Yeah, look at it this way. You have some entities telling you not to participate in the census when we know what the census really does. See, that's why there's certain things we can't stand with, because the census It's how they give the allotments for land. Are these same individuals who telling you not to participate, informing you that that's how they distribute the land that's in the trust for Indians? So now what happens when you don't participate in this census? Then it tells the government, okay, these Indians are no longer around anymore. They're extinct. So we're going to take this land that was left in the trust for them and we're going to divvy up amongst who we want to. That's all we're saying. That people are giving you misinformation. And because we're doing our job to give you the full information, not banging anyone, not making it personal, we're just giving you the full information and the source so you can go look for it and read for yourself. Example, people ran around telling everybody, oh, undrip, A-drip, undrip, A-drip. But then nobody took the time to realize in black and white writing that it states A-drip and undrip is not law. The United States of America never seen it as law. So because we speak out and let our people know, before you go in here trying to use this, I think you should read a little more so you don't jam up your future with agents and bad guys. Come on, ask yourself this question. Wouldn't you want to be well informed when it's your life at stake? Wouldn't you want to be well informed when it's your 7 generations of your future at stake? That's why I'm confused. The choice should be easy.
Also, too, we brought to the light that potentially being associated with a sovereign citizen movement can put you on the black identity extremist list. People got upset with that. But at the end of the day, you're saying you would rather not know that that's a potential pitfall. Is that what you're saying? Because if that's the case, then we are definitely at a difference of opinion. Because I would want to know. If I'm about to make a movie to the left or right, and they say, well, if you go, you can go right, but if you go right, these are the things that you need to watch out for. I would be appreciative of somebody bringing that to my attention. I wouldn't get upset with them from saying, well, why are you telling me this? I don't want to know this. I don't want to hear it. Again, difference of opinion, and that's fine. But at the end of the day, my job, my responsibility is to make sure we know exactly what the consequences and repercussions and the benefits of every move that we make that we are a part of. And
we know, Golden Moon, that's not directed towards you. We're just talking in general, because just like some people know as well as we know, and we don't do the name thing because we're not into all that drama. But we hear the different entities that's throwing the shots and stuff at us. We're just going to keep coming back with truth and information.
Yeah. So we're not debate. Right. We're not taking a shot. We're just putting information out, because at the end of the day, if we're providing proof of what we're saying, that's not a shot. So I'll give you an example. Since people like to talk about law. Defamation of character, liable under slander. Meaning that if you say something about a business owner and it can potentially cause that business owner loss of revenues and it's false, then you're guilty and can be sued. If what you're saying about that business owner is true, then you're not guilty because it's true. Do some research on what happened between Donald Trump and Rosie O'Donnell when she was on The View, and you'll understand exactly why she was removed. Because sometimes people make statements and don't understand the repercussions of what they say. And for a quick synopsis on that, there's a big difference between a person filing bankruptcy and a business filing bankruptcy. So if you say that a business owner personally filed bankruptcy and that damaged his credibility, you can be sued under libel under slander if they in fact never personally filed bankruptcy, and it was their business. That's why it's very important to do research and to study and understand what you're talking about before one proceeds to speak in a public forum where people can be adversely or positively affected. Every time we go live, we are responsible for the way that you receive the information that we speak. We are not indemnified because we don't show our faces or what have you. we are still responsible because we're putting this information out in the air, and we take this very seriously. That's the reason why we're conscious and we are diligent in providing proof and factual information and continually requesting that anything that we say be corrected in proof and in truth.
And we always open up the information. If there's something that states from day one, if there's ever any information that states otherwise, present it. We do not claim to be the know-it-all of the American Indians. Never have and never will. We're just aware of the mechanisms that our ancestors left in play. And we're just doing our best to put the information out there. I'm going to say it again. The way most of us grew up in the conditions of our neighborhoods never had to be. But I'm going to say it again. Some of these programs been in effect 1968, 1800s. So why the ones that were responsible didn't let you know? The same reason why we protect it now. So what happened in our past doesn't happen again. So you don't get people manipulating the information for their own personal financial gain. Some people just chasing the bag. What's your intention with the bag?
So I was taught a long time ago by one of my mentors, and he says the right thing to do and the easy thing to do are very seldom the same thing to do. Most people rather do what's easy. They rather do what's convenient. Very few people would rather do what's hard. Because doing the stuff that's hard will require you to be under scrutiny of individuals that are upset that you're shining a spotlight on their inactivity, their indecision, their scamming, their thievery, their false accusations, their false claims. Taking responsibility is a huge responsibility, because that means that you're responsible for everything that goes on around you. Those things you know and those things you don't know. It ain't about just taking on calling yourself a leader. It's about your actions. Remember, your actions speak so loudly that we can't hear a thing you say. We're not paying attention to what you say, watching what you do. When I say we, I'm talking about everybody. So, however, somebody. Free says, I'd rather get their work done for the next 7 generations than keep going back and forth on basic mission statement goals. Time is valuable. And we are all grown. Yeah, it's about what we're doing. It's about the activity. You know, we disseminate the information, and then we get to work, just like you do. You get to work. So does anybody else have anything to say or would like to cover before we dip out, so we can get some work done? Bones, no sellout.
No, nothing else I can think to add on.
Okay. Well, as always, it's been an honor and a privilege, and we look forward to help you in your communities, help you find your tribes, help you reach your goals in life. That's going to propel you, your family, for the next 7 generations, and find your tribes and help your tribes.
As always.
And on that note, we out.
And we say, it's always fun with the relatives. And until the next Rising Show, peace.
Peace, y'all.